Welcome to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast, where we interview the biggest and most successful real estate entrepreneurs, investors, and capital raisers in the world to provide you with the tool sets, the mindsets, and the skill sets to help you conquer yourself, your life, your marriage, and use real estate as your wealth creation vehicle so that you can live a more successful, happy, and fulfilled life of growth and contribution. If what you're after is having it all, if what you desire is becoming the best version you can be across all areas, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, sentimentally, and financially, you've come to the right place. We will bring to you the best of the best real estate entrepreneurs who will give you the insights, knowledge, experience, and skills so that you can go out and crush it financially and across all areas of your life. Grab pencil and paper, sit back, enjoy, and you are welcome to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast. Hello, Modern Kings and Queens. Welcome to another episode of the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast, where we interview the best real estate investors, capital raisers, and real estate entrepreneurs out there to provide you with the tool sets, the mindsets, and the skill sets for you to conquer yourself, your life, your marriage, and use real estate as your wealth creation vehicle so that you can achieve your financial freedom. And I'm super excited today because I get to talk to an investor that invests in a different asset type than most of my previous guests have invest in. But before I introduce this awesome gentleman to you, I just want to ask all of you for a favor. I want to ask you to please, if you find this episode valuable, if you get something out of this episode, if you get some type of value and insight, if you learn a new skill, if you get new information, motivation, or even some inspiration to go out and take some action and keep on moving forward towards your goals, I want to ask you to please share this episode. Share it with some of your friends, post it on social media, share it to someone that you know might be interested in real estate. Share with anyone you think this might impact. And to all of you who share, I say thank you. And today I have with me Jonathan. I'm not gonna attempt to say your last name, man, because I'm probably going to mess up. But Jonathan, and he's an investor, he's a speaker, he's a maverick and Renaissance man. He's been featured in over 54 podcasts, host of the Accredited Investor Podcast, Web3's biggest advocate. He's an upcoming author of Entrepreneurship is War, and how everyday accredited investors can leverage, grow, and protect assets using a little known business strategy, which is called the UHNW. I'm super excited to get into that, man. And Jonathan is the fund manager at Midwest Capital, which is a private real estate investment firm providing select and approved accredited investors with exclusive access to high yield investments in the mobile home park vertical. So super excited to get into all of that, man. Thank you very much for being here, Jonathan, and you're welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Jonathan, the first thing that I do with my guests, man, is I ask them to walk us through their real estate investing journey in 75 seconds or less.
Okay, so yeah, I never had that in a time limit before, but basically I grew up in a real estate family. My dad was a general contractor, developer. So as a kid, I'd work in the office, just spending my free time, just playing with the staplers and going to the job sites and seeing all aspects. So that kind of motivated me. And then in my teens, I'd work on the job sites, filling dumpsters and ground up construction. I'd fill the dumpsters and get my Subway lunch. So I learned to see the communication between the developers, the contractors, and that whole synergy. Then I saw my dad get into the mobile home park space in 2007, and I got into the broker space in 2010. And so that's kind of, I've been in the space real estate from the ground up, and then been in the space pretty high level for the last, at least the last 5 or 6 years, but like 10, 12 years on the broker side, and then eventually became C-suite in a couple different brokerages and started my fund later on. So
cool. So a lot of experience as a broker. So tell me, man, what does a broker do? Like, what are the main, because you hear this word thrown around all the time, but there's really no clear meaning as to what a broker does, right? So what was your experience as a broker?
Well, I mostly did for the first 2 years residential, luxury residential. Then I pivoted over to commercial real estate. It's a lot more complex, a lot more moving parts. I resonated more with it because I just like the business side of it. I don't know, like residential is like, oh, this color wall, and this is pre-social media blowing up. Like Instagram was just coming out. But just like I like the actual numbers, like the business component of it, and I like the commercial real estate side where it's actually like you see a business comes in, or you see a multifamily property come in, you see it changes the whole entire demographic, changes the whole entire neighborhood, changes the whole entire town, city. And that was just a lot more exciting than just watching a single family house that there's everyone and their brother is selling or sister or whatever. So the commercial side, it was just a lot more exciting just because of the magnitude of what impact it made to the town, city, and community. So
For sure. Okay, yeah. So so you did spend some time on the single family,
yeah,
part of real estate though, right? Yeah. So
yeah.
how much time did you spend there? And then what made you move? What made you move into commercial? You just gave
Uh,
a couple of insights. It's bigger impact, more scalable. But can you tell me the story behind that?
just basically a couple years, and then I would do, because I was in Chicago for most of my adult life, so I would do, even though I was in commercial, I'd do like luxury rentals. In Chicago, it's just like New York, Miami, LA, Austin. The luxury rentals are 3, 4, 5,000 a month. So I do like, I do a couple of those for my friends. They're moving to different buildings, but the really focus point was just like I just like commercial real estate better, just because it actually it's a different dynamic. It's a different challenge, a lot more moving parts. And then eventually I knew I wanted to acquire these deals because you get all the best tax benefits. You could scale a lot faster. You don't see people scaling, hundreds of millions of dollars in single family. It's
In
very, very
mobile, yeah,
rare. You see it
yeah.
in commercial real estate. That's a common fund. That's like, and so I wanted to be in that ballpark where I could do just scale faster. You could have better management. It's a lot easier to manage apartment building than 50 residential units. Like it's a lot easier because the average person, you have in-house property management. You're gonna have to have property here, property here. Even if you have like a small, like little community, you're still driving instead of being like a mobile home park or apartment building where it's just all in this little radius. So it's a lot more efficient. Operational efficiency is a lot easier to run. And so I saw those opportunities and those uh, just advantages. Even senior housing. I love senior housing as well. Just things where it's really efficient and it has like scalability.
So then, would you recommend a beginner real estate investor? Because there's this transition, that I hear about over and over, in which real estate investors start, like flipping a home, and then they go into like single family, right? And then they just like work and work really hard, for not that big returns or not that big deals, right?
Right.
And then they just, they one day they go to a conference in which they hear a bunch of real estate investors talk about how they are investing in 100 units at one time by doing syndication, and then boom, the light bulb goes off, and they realize that you don't have to do it. You don't have to invest in real estate. You can actually leverage other people's time, other people's skills, other people's knowledge, and other people's money. Hello, modern kings and queens. I'm sorry for the interruption. I know you're enjoying the episode, but I have something super important that you must listen to. If you've been following this podcast for a while now, it's because of one of two reasons. Number one, you aspire to have it all, to unlock your potential across all areas of your life and achieve true freedom physically, emotionally, spiritually, sentimentally, and of course, financially. And or number two, you're a real estate investor or an aspiring real estate investor who has chosen to use real estate as your wealth creation vehicle to achieve financial freedom. My mission as part of the Modern Kings and Queens movement is to help as many people as I can achieve financial freedom using the vehicle of real estate. And I believe that networking can be an incredibly powerful tool to help you unlock your potential across all areas, but more importantly, financially, and more specifically, in real estate. I believe that in real estate, your net worth is your network. This is why I created the 4-step capital raising networking system to help real estate investors propel their growth by using a reliable system that will consistently help them connect with their ideal investors, build trust, add value, get their investors to promote them and put them in front of more investors, and raise more capital faster and in a much more effortless way so that they can become successful, not only financially, but across all areas of their life. If this is something that you want, and this is something that you're interested in, click the link below to gain access to a training that will explain the 4 steps to building a high leverage network that you can use to raise millions of dollars in capital, propel your growth in real estate, and achieve financial freedom in a much more effortless way so that you can have more time and energy to pour into every single other area of your life so that you can become successful, not only financially, but across all areas of your life. In this training, you will learn 4 things. Number 1, aligned connections. I'll show you how to network effectively and how to make sure that your networking efforts work by leveraging a secret, little known concept called the cloak track. Number two, networking tool. I'm gonna reveal to you a secret networking tool that the top 5% of successful real estate investors use to become successful. And I'm gonna show you how you can use it too to become successful and get out of that 95% of real estate investors that don't really make it. Three, high status communication. In order for someone to invest in you, they have to feel like they know you, like you, and trust you. A lot of people can communicate, but very few can connect. High status communication will allow you to build trust and add value in a way that will make people feel like they know you, like you, and trust you for years in a time span of 30 minutes. And lastly, the fourth thing is the attention multiplication machine. The world doesn't run on oil anymore. It runs on attention. And this last thing, the attention multiplication machine, will show you how to get wealthy investors to promote you and put you in front of more wealthy investors so that you can raise more capital faster and in a much more effortless way. So if this is something that interests you, click the link below to go watch the training. Make sure you stay all the way to the end. If you find value and you want to book a call to talk about how you can get this completely offhand system, completely done for you system implemented for you in the next 5 days. So click the link below. I'll see you on the other side. And I hope you enjoyed the rest of your episode. Thank you very much. Bye bye. To go into bigger deals, right? And they realize that and they are like, damn, and then that they make the shift, right? But do you think a real estate investor like beginner could go straight into investing into commercial real estate?
It's a learning curve. So even like if you went to any commercial real estate brokerage, they make you work for $0 for the first year or 2 years, and you have to pay usually between 60 minimum to 80, 90% of your commissions to the senior advisors, the senior partners. And you're basically just seeing who could be a fly in the wall, learning the legal, just the legal, the moving parts, compared to like single like or just residential brokerage. And in residential brokerage, you see on TV and friends of some of the top brokers in the country. It's yeah, you could learn marketing. You have your brokerage has in-house training. You'd be up and running. You're selling your grandma's house in 2 months, your friends and family's house in 2 months, and then you make a commission and they're giving you some deals right away. It doesn't happen in commercial real estate. So the
Yeah.
expectation for someone getting into commercial real estate, it's a lot more understanding underwriting properties, understanding the finances, understanding market trends, understanding just the basically the banks lending on it. Because right now with the regional banks, I don't know when people listen to this, but the bank crisis just happened with SVB and this regional bank crisis, which is quietly happening in the backs. They fund and finance the most commercial real estate deals. And when the rates get pulled up too high and you can't get a return, they stop lending on deals that decreases the flow of deals and then increase flow of commissions. Just has a huge curveball. If you look at all the banking crashes, and I study banking crashes, so I tell people it's like check out the savings and loans from 1988 to 1992. So that's basically what this is happening right now. By the time people see this, is interest rates went really, really high, really fast, and it just killed the lending on the banks, and they didn't have ability to lend on commercial real estate. This would happen. If you study Tillman Fertitta, he's the owner of the Rockets, Houston Rockets. He owns a bunch of casinos. He owns Stake 48 and I think he's Mastros. I don't know. He owns a bunch of steakhouses across the country. Multi-billionaire. He got ahead during the savings and loan disasters that affected Illinois, Florida, and Arizona, the three most biggest states. And yeah, we mentioned you're from Arizona, but back in the late 80s, early 90s, we had right before that, everything is happening right now. Hyperinflation, or basically the highest inflation, skyrocketing rates going really fast. And then what happened after that? Some people got pennies on the dollar. So you get just like with the bank crash, where they're like, oh, people would get pennies a dollar. The FDIC only covers 1.25%. So people don't really know that. That's why, if you guys know this, you just saw this weekend there was 25 jets flew into Omaha yesterday or Saturday. They're all banking jets, and they literally tracked the jets from their banking headquarters to Omaha while Warren Buffett just had a meeting with President Biden because they're trying to get this under control. The Fed and the FDIC just really messed up by raising rates too fast. They're over leveraged, and so commercial real estate is going to be the biggest affected. And the average residential broker, going back to your point, they don't even keep track of this stuff. They don't they don't keep track of what goes on, the dynamics of financials, the bigger picture of how it affects the global economies. and also lending. And like I remember when I first got into real estate brokerage back in 2000, right end of 2009, 10, it was right after the last crash. I'm a little bit older, so it was bad. You could get houses for cheap, but nobody bank would lend unless you paid all cash. Or people had properties, but the properties went down 89%. And then like it was a
Mm.
crazy time. And like that's not saying this is gonna happen this time, but when real estate and banking and lending happens where the situation gets chaotic, it becomes down who has the most cash. And a lot of people have been following people that don't really keep track of that. And you got to follow people, going back to the point, follow people that have been in the space 10, 20 years older, like you kind of mentioned in the very intro, because they've seen these things happen. And you could study now, you could go Google, you could YouTube videos, study the banking crisis and how that affects real estate because I just talked to a friend today. He's actually in Arizona too. He flips houses out there, single family. And he used to be a banking, like high level banking guy, made a couple hundred a year, early 30s. And he left his flip like single family. And his whole premise was like, the average person, if you're not owning real estate or if you're not owning business that covers inflation, they're going to be working for this hyperinflation going forward. They're not going to be able to get ahead. So going to your whole thesis of your program, it's going to be bad. And it's going to be
Yeah.
5 or 10 years of a chaotic, and plus AI coming in now, taking replacing basic jobs. It's going to be a different environment for most people. And how it pertains to real estate's the biggest key to it based on financing.
So man, so definitely getting into real estate is something you want to do. So what are you doing to like weather everything that is happening and be able to make sure that you set yourself up in the future for success?
Couple things. I'm focused on commercial real estate, mobile home parks, and apartment buildings. They have the two best tax benefits. So, for example, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act from 2017, the bonus depreciation is 80% this year in 2023. It goes down to 60, 40, 20, 0. So people understand that on real estate and or businesses, you can depreciate a large percentage, 80% when you acquire it. Plus, with mobile
Mm-hmm.
home parks, you could appreciate land improvements. Most people don't know this at 15 years, and or apartment buildings at 27 years. So that means is, let's say you're an athlete, and I have friends who are athletes. Um, they make $1.5 million a year, or your doctor making 500, 700, like a high-end doctor, a plastic surgeon, own a couple of medical practices, makes 750 a year. You're the highest tax person on the planet. You're taxed
Yeah.
on salary. So you can mitigate your costs by taking advantage of the cost segregation, the bonus depreciation with real estate. Additionally, as interest rates are going up, cap rates are going up. So right now we're not going to get the same yields you used to have. So we're being really creative and getting secure financing. So a lot of people right now that have a lot of friends that have hundreds of thousands or like hundreds of millions to billions, a few billion in real estate, literally through funds and different things. They're sitting on the sidelines because they're waiting for the rates to settle. The rates settle. This is where it's chaotic time. It's not like it was last year. We were in a crazy last 3 years, inflated market based on the Fed printing so much money from 2020 and the COVID, and everything that happened in that whole situation. People got this mindset like it always goes up and up. This would happen in
Mm-hmm.
2009, 7, 8, 9. It happens every 10, 15 years. So people think it automatically goes up and up and up, but every market has ups and down cycles. That's a healthy cycle. And we're in a
For sure.
down cycle right now. So to counteract that is kind of sit in the sidelines, take advantage of tax situations, be cash liquid. I could talk about different just basic tax scenarios. And one thing I know a lot of people, the ultra high net worth, have friends, they're keeping money in different offshore accounts, Caymans, Singapore, Hong Kong, keeping liquid there because if the bank situation, U.S. gets chaotic, they want to be liquid in other countries, and you also get second passports when you invest in these countries.
Cool. So man, so with Midwest Park Capital, right? That's your firm. That's
Yeah,
you. I think you manage a fund there, right? And
yeah,
so you focused all your investments on apartments and in mobile home parks,
correct.
right? So tell me about like what are the yeah man tell me some cool things about like investing into mobile homes because like it's pretty I've interviewed quite a few people and you're the first one that invests in that type of asset, right? So it's pretty cool, and I'm super interested in learning more, and I'm super interested in giving the audience the opportunity to learn more about this type of asset as like a strategy not only to make money but to save tax, to be liquid, and all of the other benefits that can come with it. So can you tell me a bit more about that, about investing
Sure.
into mobile homes?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been in the space since 2006, 2000, beginning of seven. It's the best. It's been historically the best performing asset. Wall Street Journal did an article a couple years ago, said the best performing asset for the last 50 years, mobile home parks, self storage number two, and then RVs up there too. And then you have senior housing does really well too. But during downturns, riches are in the niches, and everyone goes multifamily got a lot of popularity because of Jared Glant and Grant Cardone,
Yeah.
those guys are producing content about that. But like back in the day, it was just like more. We have so much access to more information, but like you tell people apartments a couple years ago, like you mentioned conferences, that was 5, 7 years ago. It wasn't as common as it is now. Everyone knows about that now. The advantages of a multifamily and just the advantage of scale, the tax benefits, the lending. And for people don't know, if you qualify for commercial lending, you pay way lower rates. It's non-recourse. If your house goes under, if somebody leaves and trashes it, you're on the hook. It was on your credit. If so, you have a non-recourse loan in mobile home parks or apartment buildings, you could walk away and be like, all right, cool, take the property. Here's $20 million, peace. You can go buy a property the next day because it doesn't go against your credit. But you had $200,000 house or $400,000 house, it goes in your credit for 2 years or 10 years, 7, 10 years. You file for
That's
bankruptcy.
crazy, right?
But you could literally buy a property that's 50 times more expensive. And you can walk away, take all the cash out, and be like, peace. So this is why people don't get it. Like they like, oh, they've been so told because they see 20 shows on TV. They're like, oh, see, flipping housing, flipping housing, flipping housing. Like, cool, but all the same money and same down payment, you're putting it into something you could put into something that's way more like more secure, has way better tax benefits, way better tax benefits. Like you could literally make if you're making you have a couple investors, you can make like I said, $500,000 a year and pay zero taxes for the first year. Zero taxes. Like, but you got a single family property, and it makes me like 1,500 a month. You're still paying tax on it, whatever your tax income is. You make $400,000 a year for the mobile home park, you pay zero taxes for the first year. Like, why would you pay? You're like, oh, like people get so impressed by making some money, but they don't see the bigger picture of what's actually out there. And a lot of the stuff, the riches are more, and the niches are more sophisticated asset classes. And who's considered the greatest real estate investor of all time? Sam Zell. Sam Zell owns the most mobile home parks in the country. That's one niche. But we're talking about apartment buildings. He owns the most apartment buildings. He also owns the most office buildings in the country. So he owns the most office buildings in the country, including Manhattan, New York. He owns the most apartment buildings in the country, and he owns the most mobile home park countries. And obviously, he's a multi-billionaire. And he's also considerably done well when everything hits the fan. And what does he say? He says, focus on where you can be an oligopoly, focus on the riches and the niches, focus on smaller niches. And he's sold off half his office and half his multifamily in the last like 5 or 7 years. And guess how much he sold off his mobile home parks? Zero. What's he done? Added more because affordable housing becomes a crazier issue because more people, the inflation keeps going up, the cost of living goes across the country, more jobs are getting replaced by AI, and Chat GTP 4 just came out. So average people want. Did you see the McDonald's? There people are like, oh, I want $15 an hour. Now McDonald's has robots, and like they're eventually, yeah, you'll have a few people making $15 an hour, but it's gonna be more. There's gonna be a lot of jobs replaced by AI. I just had a guy on my podcast who's Tony Robbins' business partner. Uh, he has X Prize. Elon Musk and put $120 million into it in the Elon Musk Foundation to solve the carbon footprint. He founded that. That's just one thing. But he has an AI robot company. It's going to replace nurses because there's 1/3 of nurses in the U.S., China, Japan. You have a nurse that it's going to be an AI robot that goes around your house, cooks for you all across the world, and takes care of that. And that's going to be like that's just the future of it. It's going to be we already know ChatGPT before is 90% more proficient than the average person. So
Yeah.
what does that mean for somebody that's just an average person? Well, it's going to be replaced by that. So what's that going to mean? Where are these people going to go? They get you rely on Social Security or get pushed out of jobs.
They're gonna need affordable
Mobile home
housing.
parks and cheap
Yeah.
affordable housing. So it only fuels it. And there's another statistic. There's 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day. It's called the silver tsunami. Some people like Rich Dad Poor Dad, but people don't know that he invests in he's from Arizona originally. I don't know if you saw it there, but he invests in senior housing. So senior health care is like the assisted living, those type of high-end healthcare. There's a huge boom of
Mhm.
that. That's usually for the affluent people. It's people that have like a couple million or made hundreds of thousands a year, saved a lot. They could have this 6, 7 thousand a month luxury retirement place.
Yeah.
But on the contrary, 75% of people have less than a few $1,000s savings. So where are they gonna go? Affordable housing, and then the housing keeps going up. So there is a cause called the silver tsunami. Going back to that, he even mentioned this. Kiyosaki, he said like And there's stats showing this 10,000 baby boomers retiring. People are living longer. 40 years ago, people were living to 60, 65 years old. That's when we had pensions. Like when they initially gave out pensions, people thought they would live for 4 years. Now they're living for 24 years. And that's why they pushed Social Security back 2 more years now in the US. And they just had these riots in France because they pushed the Social Security back 2 years because people are living longer. We understand nutrition, better drugs, better healthcare, all that stuff. So all this
Okay.
does is fuels affordable housing and things of that nature. So mobile home parks is getting more consolidated because there's only 43,000, let's say 100 parks in the country. A percentage gets turned down every year. But there's also assisted living. You want to focus on where you can get a foothold and get where you can take advantage of trends. People just want to go. If you want to go to a room, go to a trade show, and there's 7,000 people flipping single family, or do you want to be in a room where there's 10 people doing the same thing you do in the same town? Where do you think your odds are better? 7,000 against one or 10?
10. Yeah. So then there's not a lot of people doing mobile homes then. Is that right?
Correct. It's way less
Yeah.
saturated.
That's awesome, man. I didn't know that. So then, it's starting to become a lot clear that a place where you should be in, right? Looking at according, if you look at the trends that where everything is going is in mobile homes, it makes sense, right? We're gonna need more affordable housing. More people are gonna lose jobs. They're gonna need affordable housing, and the place to be is in mobile homes. So it makes sense, man, and it's really cool. And then I didn't know that. And actually, that's why it's so uncommon, right? That's why like none of my guests that I've had on this podcast are mobile home, invest in mobile homes because it's rare. Right? Like there's not many people
Yeah.
investing in mobile homes, so that means that there's a great opportunity there. So tell me, what do you do with Mobile Homes Wealth Academy?
Oh
Do you
yeah.
teach people?
You see my back banner. Yeah. So I have so basically I've been on 50 some podcasts and people promoting the fund at Midwest Park Capital. I never thought I'd create a course. I've taken a bunch of courses. I'm friends with a lot of the course creators, like from everything digital and stuff like that. And I would
Yeah.
get people, to invest in a fund, it's called you have to be an accredited investor from the SEC and the US government. So that basically means you have to make 200,000 a year for the last 2 years and a year going forward, or 300,000 per year and going forward if you're married, and or have $1 million liquid and it goes back to single family, does not count. If you have $1 million house, does not count. $1 million liquid, stocks, bonds. I think stocks, bonds, or cash. Um, but so basically, it eliminates 89% of the population. And people like hear this stuff, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I want to learn about this. Nobody's talking about this, or I've kind of heard about it. It's starting to come kind of common now." And I was like, "Well, you know what? Might as well when I'm like out and about or just doing these interviews, let me just record some content." Little did I know it'd take like 4.5, 5 months of my life. I got 27 and a half hours content, still growing. So I teach people how to find, fix, flip mobile homes. And I also teach them how to get their first park. And I also teach them finance, which I've taken courses with $10,000 and $20,000 in groups. I'm in private groups that the best way to raise capital, including stuff like learning DDQs, learning like nobody talks about this stuff. Like you don't see this on YouTube, like the investor profile, how to do the one pager, how to use the psychology. And here's like all the frameworks. They're not on YouTube. They're not on Google. Like this is very high level. It's from like private equity stuff and how people sell the family offices and how to sell to like private equity. I threw all that stuff in there so you could use that. You look really professional going to somebody if you want to learn how to get your first single flip, mobile home flip, or you want to get your first mobile home park with investors. And
Yeah.
so I just basically created A to Z. It's 4 times longer than all my competitors. Actually, it's more than all my competitors combined. The content, and I keep adding more. And I'm
That's
just adding
crazy,
more and
man.
more because everyone in the
So you
space
go deep
wants to be on it because they're like they know it's the top and it's just like my passion now. And like because I
for
the
sure.
cool thing with the course, it's once it's uploaded, I don't have to do it over and over and over again. So I just like add it and add it and add it and improve it. So
Man, so there's something really interesting that you said. Like nothing is on YouTube, but even if it was, like there's
it's
no point on like investing
give
all
me
the
the
time that you're gonna
framework.
invest to put all the pieces together. You'll get a like way more return if you invest in yourself. If you put a
Yeah,
little bit of money into someone that can teach you everything from A to Z. Like even if it was on Google, just supposing that it was, or
right.
YouTube, there's no point in going and trying to piece everything together, right? Um, so I just wanted to mention that, man. And it's awesome. So can you talk about your fund? Do you use your fund to invest in
Yep.
mobile homes?
No, we do it for parks. So the parks, the reason I did the park, it's the only course out there does teaching people on mobile homes because the mobile homes you could get like Arizona's a more expensive state, but certain Midwest states um, or if you're in California or Florida, you can make 50, 100, 150,000 a flip. So it's actually like just the same as single family. But in some states, most probably 1/3 of the country, you can get cheaper mobile homes in the 70s pre-HUD for a few $1,000s, sometimes like even less than that, or you could flip the contracts just by using, which I teach in the course, is like teaching people, if you have a younger audience, well, the thing with Facebook Marketplace, well, if the average 55% of the mobile home owners are senior citizens, well, they don't know how to use Facebook Marketplace, but you can put it on Facebook Marketplace and basically do arbitrage. You mentioned Harmozy, he talks about arbitrage as the best opportunity going forward, using technology advantage. Well, they don't, remember, real estate brokers don't want to broker because they don't make money. They don't want to sell 15,000 or 10,000 mobile home. They want to sell a $400,000 house, and they could put on Facebook, I just sold this $400,000 house. They don't want to say, yeah, I sold this mobile home for 10 grand. Well, you could do flip the contract and using Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, but Facebook Marketplace, maybe throw a few bucks on the boost, and you make 2 grand, which would be like the same for a week worth of work, which is posting a couple of times on Facebook. And so, or 5 grand. I always tell make people like 4 or 5 grand. So you just basically is your minimum goal. So basically you just say, hey, what do you want for this? And then you just create the contract, do a flip the contract. So you can start with like little money. And that's what I recommend. Just get the ball, you get the understanding the momentum and understanding the space and get your confidence built up. Just start with a smaller deal, not don't go like when you see people on TV flipping, knocking down houses. And like, dude, why are you going to go get a bank, spend 4 months repairing something and hope you make 30, 40 grand? Why don't you just go make something in 5 grand the first month and you didn't have to do any of the work? And you had no
Yeah.
risk because you're not taking loans out. You're just doing flipping a contract. And so people, when you're getting a business, you want to mitigate your risk, learn the process, get confidence, build your skill sets, and then grow accordingly. People see these TV shows, they think it's going to be simple. That's because it's a TV show and half the time it's scripted. And then you're competing again. It's going back to the point, 7,000 people, or you want to compete with 10 people. But if you want to compete with 7,000 people, you think you're Michael Jordan and you've never done it before, good luck, see what happens.
Yeah.
But people get overconfident
And that's a
without
really
assessing the
important lesson,
market.
man. The riches aren't the niches. Actually, this morning I saw a video from Alex Ramosi. What's the name of the richest man on earth? Bernard something? Bernard something, right?
But I didn't, what founder? I didn't hear what you said.
Um, the richest man on earth, Bernard. He owns like all of the luxury
Oh
brands,
yeah,
like
well, still Elon passed him up again, but LMVH, so like Louis Vuitton and like all the different things. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
compare.
yeah. So like he sells to 1% of the population. That's it, right? To like less than 1% of the population. So I don't think that people get it when we say, or when anybody says the riches are in the niches, right? People think that when you go small, you're gonna miss out on a lot of opportunity, but actually all of the opportunity is in that small niche, right? The riches
Yep.
are in the niches. But there's this like scarcity mindset, man. That is like literally that is like coded on our hardware, on our software, and we have it so programmed, so well programmed and deeply programmed in ourselves, right? That makes us feel like we're missing out. It makes us feel scarcity, basically. So I actually went through this. Like I had a lot of time. I had a very hard time niching down because I thought that I was going to miss a lot of opportunity. And I had a message where I was communicating that I was literally serving the entire world, and it was really hard. Or I actually had to work really hard to get business. But when I niched down and I just focused on like my ideal client avatar and my ideal investor, things started to get easier and things started to get better. And I started to attract the people that I actually wanted to work with. And I realized that the purpose for having an ideal client avatar or an ideal investor avatar is so that you can know who your ideal investor or your ideal client is, right?
Yeah.
And know that not everybody is, and that's okay. That's actually good, right? So there's just this like scarcity mentality around that, man. And I just wanted to make to like address that, right? And making sure that everyone gets that the riches are in the niches. And yeah, so mobile homes, there's very few people doing it. There's a lot of opportunity. More people are going to be needing to go and live in mobile homes because they're going to need more affordable housing. And in summary, right, it's a really good opportunity to be in. So if people want to know more about that, man, about your mobile home wealth academy, do you have anything to like get them started, like a, I don't know, maybe a webinar or a training or something, or where would be the best place to go and learn more about your mobile home wealth academy, man?
Sure. And just to kind of reiterate your point, yeah. So rookie entrepreneurs, they'll think like I'm going to miss out on opportunities because I have to take this person. I have a friend that has this. Like you go back to broker, like, oh, I could do. My friend, he has a restaurant he wants to sell. I have my girlfriend's mom wants to sell her house. And then you have another person's like, oh, my best friend is buying an apartment building. We didn't. Oh, I'm gonna take all these things on, but you never get traction. You never get. You
And you can
resonate
never
better with
systemize
people.
anything.
Yeah,
right?
you can never scale because you're being like you too many places at once. You start focusing on a niche because then you get traction, get word of mouth, and then you the key is you can understand the pain points, you can resonate, you can have an offer specifically towards that audience that they know you understand your pain points. And then like you could say, I'm literally just doing this. And this is marketing 101, but like there's a lot of people that can't even deliver half time, but they say the biggest pain points, they have a great irresistible offer, and they resonate for one audience, and then you're going to be in the top three instead of somebody says, "Oh, I do that, but I also do 15 things else." And then till you build a name, a reputation, a market, product market fit, have a scalability, and have the opportunity to scale accordingly, and have the consumer
Yeah.
review and the social proof, then you could scale. Then you could open up, you know, a subsidiary or a foundational business based off of that, and you could scale other things. But most people want to do 15 things at once, focus on the one
Yeah.
thing at first, and
So
then
actually,
go.
man, we just worked on the documentation of a software that we're going to be that this company that I'm working with is going to be launching, and a guy came in to talk about we about possibly working together, right? And him going and coding and developing the entire structure and the entire software, all the backend and stuff. And then he started talking about how he's in communications and he's in like
Yeah,
in travel and he's in this and he's in
yeah,
that,
yeah,
right? And I was listening, and then later on when he left, right, the guy that's in charge of the software told me that he really liked him, right? And he asked me about my opinion, and then he was like, "So what do you think?" And then I'm like, "No, no, no, that's not gonna
no, you know,
like." And
especially in
then
tech.
why? And then I was like, "Well, because he's in like 15 things at once. He probably, he says he does all this thing, so he probably does nothing, right? So he's not gonna give us good results." And that's
Yeah,
like,
until you have like yeah, until you have like your track. Because I'm also in a Web3 project, but I've been in the space and digital consulting, and I talked to VCs. I was just in LA last week, and I met with a bunch of VCs. I have a type on my podcast. I get some some Elon's friends coming on my podcast, but like the VC world, I've been like I put the thousands of hours, and like tech has always been it's been tech and real estate, mobile home parks in 2007, tech since 2012. So like, but it's just everything off those two things. I'm not also playing the piano. I'm not like playing basketball. Like I like basketball, but I haven't played. Like I had to hyper focus until I understood and put the boots in the ground, learn the foundations, and then became enough where I could demonstrate to people. And a lot of people think now it's like, oh, I could instantly do this. I create an offer. No, like it's literally becoming an expert. And then when you go into your point, like people pitch me on different or want me to be board of advisors, like a consultant for them, different tech things. And like when they start saying 15 things, I'm like, I was just like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. And I'm like, I'm easy. If you talk to a VC, you talk to hedge fund, these are people I talk to every week, and they call me. I'm telling you, I'm being polite on you, but this is like I could find holes in it, and like you need to hyper focus. I'm not gonna mention but something in the real estate, not you, but an example, but somebody's saying, "Oh, I want to create this. I want to create this." I'm like, focus on one, get to this. I'm
yeah,
like, do you even know this? I'm like, so like, do you know about so he's like, "Oh, I like travel. Do you know about the Foreign Earned Income Exclusion Act?" He's like, "What's that? Like, you like to travel, but you don't know about the Foreign Earned Income Exclusion?" I'm like, "Well, you could travel. Goes up 120,000 every year. It's 120,000 this year for 2023. So like people working online, nobody wants to work at home. You live in the U.S. You outside the U.S. for 330 days. You pay zero taxes on your first 120,000. You write off your Airbnbs, even if it's 3 or 4,000, 5,000 a month place plus your food. So you could literally make 200 grand a year, live outside the U.S., live in Bali, Philippines, Colombia, Panama, Mexico, whatever. And then I was like, okay, so so have you filed your Form 83Bs yet? He's like, what's the Form 8? Like, you're in tech, you don't know Form 83B. So like in a new tech startup, you get Form 83B. So IRS allows you to basically pay your equity position, your position, take your SAFT agreements to your equity position. So you basically, the startup tech world, SaaS world, anything like that, you the Form 83B, you claim the taxes before it actually becomes worth a lot. So you pay $10, $15, and the company, say SaaSes have 20, 15, 20x multiple. Well, you could get really fast. If you're doing real estate, you have ARR 100,000 a month, you sell it for 15 million. Well, you keep it less than 5 years, you pay the taxes on the to the IRS beforehand in Form A3B elections, then you're going to be paying way less taxes. Or if you keep it 5 years, you have Section 1202. And Section 1202, it means if you keep it for 5 years, you pay zero taxes on your first 10 million. These are things as a tech founder, these are the techniques you got to use. And this guy was like, and he's like, oh, like I was like, you want me to be an advisor, but I'm like, man, like you got to get your core focus down, and like this is like I don't
yeah,
know this stuff because like, but I
yeah,
need you to be focused on your core focus. and building a team, building a product market fit, get the first 100 people, see if there's a product and see if there's a need in the market. Get the first 100 people, and then after that, nowadays we have advantage because we could use influencers, we could do like different ways to get traction right away to test it. But because people see these high evaluations, and that's changing right now. It's changing, and now it's actually going to be a product market fit. People using to mitigate teams, they're going to be using ChatGTP, and they're going to be using advisors, and then comes down to funding because once you have a product market fit, okay, how can we scale this accordingly? Getting access to capital, and right now is not as what it was 2 years ago because the banks are collapsing, and then there's 550 billion, literally billion of dry powder inside of that, which means cash in the VCs that they're not even spending because they don't want to put in the market because they want to see where the market's going. And so my
Mm.
point of all this is really do your due diligence, understand building a product market fit, building a service, or building anything you want to do in technology and or real estate comes down to putting in the due diligence, getting the partnerships, listening to your podcast, things of that nature.
Yeah, man. Actually, I think that the main thing that keeps entrepreneurs back, that holds them back from like unlocking their true potential in business, is not mindset, it's not skills. I think
Right.
it's just lack of focus, right? Because
Yeah.
I've been through that. When earlier in my career, I was like doing insurance, digital marketing, Facebook ads,
You see too many
real
eyes, you
estate,
see yours. Yeah.
everything, right?
Do a
Until it
drop ship
took me, a,
store, then you want to do like now you see people telling you like 15 different things, but half
yeah,
the time they don't tell you the complex. There's always downside, and I have like different printed demand. I have like little different digital businesses, and there's ups and downs. You have to look at like that's when you see like older guys and business guys, and they always like, what's the downside? What's the risk averse? Same with commercial real estate. I learned that from commercial real estate. Residential is like, oh, it's up, 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 and up, and like it's beautiful blue paint, and like the house neighborhood's got some new school. Well, in commercial real estate, okay, what's the trends? The macro, micro. There's people jobs coming in, or people they're losing their job to digital, or people moving out of this area. They're moving to California. Are they moving to Texas or New York? Are they moving to Florida? Or if it's they're moving out of the country, doing the Foreign Income Exclusion Act and doing fiber gigs. So understanding these trends and how that pertains to the real estate, understands how it's the risk averse of what you're trying to do, because everyone used to like 4 years ago say, hey, do a Shopify store, like, oh, you can make 100,000 a month. I have friends who did, like I just talked the other day. I'm not gonna name names because people don't know who they are, but they run some of the biggest influencers ad campaigns, and like we would run, yeah, we do. We'd say we did 50 million, but we didn't tell you how much we spent on ads and our
yeah.
profit margins. And then eventually Facebook Pixel shut down and our ad account shut down. And it's like, all right, cool. And then we couldn't sell it because it wasn't enough business because it was drop ship. So, you couldn't sell it for like a software, you could sell it for 15, 20x multiple, or certain businesses you could sell 3 or 4. Real estate you could sell for 2 or 3x multiple over 5 or 7 years. But a dropship store is like 0.5 or point or 0.05 or 0.7. So it's not even 1x multiple
Yeah.
because you don't control the supply chain. You don't control the
Mhm.
traffic. The traffic is usually from either influencers or paid ads,
So man,
or it's
if
on
I'm an
social media,
entrepreneur,
which you don't control either.
exactly. So man, if I'm an entrepreneur and I, finally realize that focus is the key, that the riches are in the niches, and I want to, I want to go into a business model that allows me to protect myself from like everything that is happening in the economy, that is recession proof, that is inflation proof, and I just want to focus, and I just want to, for someone that is extremely, that is an expert and has systemized the entire process of that one thing. Where should I go and find Mobile Home Wealth Academy, man?
Yeah, that's a great transition because literally the one back burner, and like I was just at this family office event in LA, and there was many billionaires. There was over 100 billion net worth in that office in this room, and every single one of them, no matter what they do, they might have built something. I met this guy that what's that new Rizvani tank? The Rizvani, Chris Brown, Jamie Foxx.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm sitting at the table with this guy, and like we're talking about this other VC, and we're talking about the smartest
no
people. And
way.
I was
They
talking
had
about
mobile homes.
what's that?
They had mobile homes.
No, but they all have real estate. So the whole point is they all have real estate, and then now they're trying to get into the mobile home park space because like people like me, they're so used to multifamily, they're so used to other asset classes, and that's where because the biggest thing is everyone's familiar with that, and like people like me are coming in the space, and like there's a big kind of push now, like the tech guys are starting to get it too because they're like, okay, cool, we understand that our technology is replacing jobs with AI. This is the space that makes sense. So the mobile home and mobile home parks is like the only problem is there's only a shortage of them. So Mobile Home Wealth Academy is where I teach people from if you just have a few grand, or you just want to even just start with little to no capital, if you're flipping contracts using leverage technology, people you're using Facebook ads, things of that nature with low, this is the opportunity. And it does even better historically for the last 5 decades. You can Google this stuff, Wall Street Journal, every article, it does every, like 2020, it was the top performing because when shit hits the, or crap hits the fan, I don't know if it's swear there, it's the one thing that does really, really well. And then the park side is that's a place, it's like a smaller version of multifamily. So you get them, you can have you can make millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, plus you have the tax benefits, bring investors in. So
Yeah.
you can scale from small to large. And even the tech guys understand that now too, because of the products they're creating with the softwares and eliminating jobs. So it all makes sense and all ties in. That's why I like my industries, because they literally interlink between each other. And then when you talk to people, like, 'cause they already invest in us, they're like, oh, I love that because I get it. So, and that never used to be, and now it's becoming commonplace with people understanding what the value it creates. And at the same time, people live there. It's the cheapest form of housing. They just, for example, people live in the mobile homes. They pay, like if you live in Illinois and you're across the street, you have a 200,000 house, you're paying 4 or 5 thousand a year in real estate taxes. If you live in your mobile home, you're paying $10 a month or $20 a month. You have the same school,
That's
same
crazy.
fire, same police, and your lot rent, including your taxes, is less than their real estate taxes, and plus the mobile home appreciated more than that house. So
That's
everyone,
crazy, man. Cool. So can we? So I'm guessing that we can find more information about that, about your mobile home wealth academy on your social media.
yeah, mobilehomewealthacademy.com. I have like 3 landing click funnel pages, but Mobile Home Wealth Academy, it ranks on Google too. And then Midwest Park Capital, if you're a credit investor, it's a little bit higher raise minimum. I'm working with some pretty high net worth people, and that's for people we want. I might do one-off deals going forward because of what's going on with the bank situation, but Midwest Park Capital, if you're a credit investor, you want to explore that. I get a lot of exclusive deals because I've been in the space 15 years. I speak on the national stage if they have national events. So got some pretty good deal flow. And then I also have a multifamily group on Facebook called Multifamily Investors Nationwide. There's 20,000 members. It's one of the fastest growing multifamily groups on Facebook as well. And my socials, you can probably share them here. So Jonathan Tuttle.
So man, I'm curious about something. Tell me a little bit about. So I do end my podcast with 5 questions. I think I'm gonna. Well, I do want to ask two because we're gonna have time for two. But before I go to that, tell me a little bit about the Accredited Investor Podcast, man. What is that about?
Sure, that's my podcast. Basically, I found the nobody to claim the name out of all these podcasts. It's the most important investing name in the U.S. and nationwide. I was like, all right. As soon as I found it, I'm like, let me just do like a recording because I looked at what's the IP for a podcast. I'm like, coming soon, a credit investor podcast. And I went and like claim the
Cool.
socials.
So
Then I
you
had the
claim it right
IP,
away.
and then I've had people offering to buy the name, it's like a website
That's
domain because they know what it
crazy.
is. But I just interviewed like in people, thought leaders in tech, real estate, blockchain, business, celebrities, like business celebrities. I got some pretty big ones coming on. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. Because like
So
kind of you said, like I get to talk to people that I never thought to talk to, and then they become in your circle. And
yeah, for
then you talk
sure.
to somebody else. I'm like, oh, I just had this person. I'm like, oh, he was on that. And like then I talk to that person, like, oh, he was on it, and then it just becomes like this whole circle.
And then you can leverage all of those relationships to
Yep,
talk to more
exactly,
people. Yeah, yeah. I
exactly.
call that the club track. Yeah. So man,
Yeah, no, and you're doing it at a young age, man. It's
so
brilliant.
so so you basically interview accredited investors and use it as a networking tool. Then.
Yeah, anybody's created, actually, it's anybody's created 10 million to a multi-billion dollar business or income. I guess a couple of billionaires coming up too. I'm not gonna announce it yet, but yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Damn, that's awesome, man. And now I'm gonna be able to leverage the relationship that I have with you, right? And say,
Exactly,
oh, I had him on my podcast. You want to come? Thank you,
exactly.
man.
And that's what I do. Like that's
Thank you.
literally how I do it in my emails and even my Instagram messages. And they respond if they're like sometimes they respond. It's
Yeah,
crazy. So, but you
yeah,
have to
man.
make
Thank
it
you.
a good
So
fit for everyone. You have to be. It's all about them adding value first. So it's not
for
like
sure.
adding value first and not expecting the return, and then building that relationship, and then leveraging that connection. That's how
Yeah,
you do it. A lot of people are like, oh, do this, or they want something first. They want you to charge you something. No, it's all about adding value, giving something of value first, and expecting nothing in return, and then seeing how that evolves, and then using that relationship for other deals and things.
for sure, man. So man, to finish off, the first question that I want to ask you is, knowing what you know now, what piece of advice would you give yourself at the beginning of your real estate investing journey to help yourself have faster, easier, and smoother success?
Well, I do what I did is like basically get mentors and do. I worked underneath people and got paid a small percentage, but I worked under people way, way ahead of me. We had a national trainer, Spirit Van Ness. We had a national top performing out of 180 plus locations, and just working with people way ahead of me and always hiring coaches, reinvest in the business first, which I did. So I mean, I did the right steps, but I always tell people just don't expect anything right away. Have it takes the average millionaire, was it 12 to 20 years, but now with technology, you could have an exit, or you could have a Facebook. You could do something where you could do leverage technology and have a relationship. You could do it in like 3 to 5 years or even less. But
Yeah,
basically, have the expectation, because if you make it too fast, you don't have the skill sets to maintain it. You don't have the trust, estate planning offshore. You're not going to have all those other skill sets. You're like, oh, I know how to do this, but when the downturn happens, well, do you have offshore? Do you have trust? South Dakota trust? Do you have Cayman Islands? Where's your banks? Do you have Cayman Islands, Singapore, Hong Kong? What about that? Well, that's part of the stuff you learn as you get into business, international trust, things of that nature.
cool. I like that, man. The next one is building relationships and networking is key to be successful in the real estate investing game, raising capital, finding deals, and all that. So, what networking strategy or advice can you give on that, man?
Go to conferences and talk to everyone and be friendly and add value. That's number one. Everything's on Zoom, everything's on that, but like there's so much more face-to-face value, because then people resonate with people. You can take them out to dinner, take them out drinks. You'll get, it's immeasurable the value you get to that from that.
For sure. So, Jonathan, it's been a pleasure, man. Where would be the best place to find you, man? To find more of you and more of all of your stuff.
Sure. Jonathan Tuttle on Instagram, Linktree /Jonathan Tuttle has all my links. Midwest Park Capital, Mobile Home Wealth Academy, Credit Investor Podcast, Multifamily Investor Nationwide on Facebook. But thank you for listening to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast. We want you to know that we love and appreciate you, and we are super grateful about being part of your journey of becoming a successful real estate entrepreneur and having it all. Please share this episode with a friend who you think will be impacted positively. Send it to someone who you know is interested in real estate and dreams of having it all and being the best they can be across all areas. And if you thought this episode was really valuable, share it on your social media as a post or a story. We have a special gift for all of those who contribute to the Modern Kings and Queens movement. So for those of you who decided to share this episode and help us spread our message, send me a message letting me know on any social media platform at Alex Ramirez, the Modern King. I have a special surprise for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.